Hey guys, I'm Michael Trulli, and today we're laying down the Terminator timeline from the movies. None of the books, none of the novelizations, none of the comic books, none of the TV shows, just the movies. You ready? Ignoring all time travel paradoxes, here we go. James Cameron's Terminator. It's the future. We open there, we know it's the future because everybody's shooting laser guns at each other. That future is in 2029. The Resistance is on the verge of winning a war against the machines. Their secret weapon, John Connor, Sarah Connor's son. Who is Sarah Connor? We have to go all the way over here to 1964 to 1966. The movies can't really decide when she was born. And hey, let's be fine. Ladies be all coy about their real age anyway. The machines, they don't play football, but they throw a Hail Mary pass all the way from 2029, sending back a killing machine dressed in Arnold Schwarzenegger's skin. To the date, May 12th, 1984. His mission, kill that lady, Sarah Connor, and stop the Resistance from ever starting. Not to be outdone, John Connor of the future, also in 2029, sends back his close friend, Kyle Reese, to May 12th, 1984 as well. His mission? To protect Sarah Connor from that, well, you get it. You've seen Terminator, you're just a little confused on the timeline. Kyle falls in love with Sarah, and they bang. But the T-800 is one bad mother, so Kyle sacrifices himself to save Sarah. This guy, he's dead. I don't know why I just put a smiley face on the skull and crossbones. Sarah kills the T-800, that's another skull and crossbones. Sarah kills the T-800, and barely gets away, leaving a whole bunch of Terminator junk behind in the factory. The factory is owned by Cyberdyne Systems. A few months later, we see her pregnant in Mexico, and we find out that Kyle, future man Reese, knocked her up. Sarah gets her picture taken, and we find out it's the very same picture that Kyle was given when he came back from 2029. Between movies 1 and 2, the following things happen. John Connor is born February 12th, 1985. This is obviously not to scale, so let's call this 1985 right here. 1985. Cyberdyne starts researching the Terminator arm, which is moving through time like that. Arnold Schwarzenegger learns to speak better English, so he's not a mute by the time they shoot the second one. Terminator 2 Judgment Day. It's now 1995. We'll put that right around there. John Connor is the future leader of the Resistance, and he looks like this. Oh, have you ever seen a kid look so cool on a motorcycle? We thought he was gonna turn out to be the baddest guy, just like right around here in 2014, but no, he's kind of fat and he's got squinty eyes. All right, so the machines couldn't kill Sarah, so they're gonna try to kill John Connor as a kid. So the machine sent a new updated Terminator, a T-1000, a Robert Patrick model, back again from 2029 to 1995 when music was perfect. To stop the fancy new T-1000, John Connor of the future sends back a reprogrammed T-800. I can only assume he stopped sending close friends because they kept trying to his mom. Arnold, with his fancy new English and cool shades, tells them about Skynet, which becomes self-aware and launches a whole bunch of nukes all over the place on August 29th, 1997. Well, actually, it's at 2:14 Eastern time, so it's kind of more like right here. So apparently this whole mess is kicked off by Miles Dyson, who's been working for Cyberdyne, reverse engineering this arm and the CPU found at the factory. So, and that was way back here in 1992. That doesn't make any sense. So to stop this from happening, they decide to drive across town and kill him. I'm really running out of space here. I cannot stress that enough. These movies are really violent, but they can't kill him and instead use their words like bullets to convince Miles that his research is dangerous, and then they talk him into destroying it all. He dies in the process, so I'm gonna draw a big old skull up there. That's more like a skull octopus. At this point, Judgment Day, back off the table. Yay, we've done it. But they're still being chased by the T-1000. Boo. The reprogrammed T-800, who's gone from cool shades to like weird red eye, shoots the T-1000 into a big pool of molten metal with a grenade launcher. This one looks like a balloon sitting on a starfish. This is the worst skulls, you guys. Anyone want a tattoo? So John throws the arm and the CPU into the big tub of molten lava, and that's off the table. We don't have to worry about that anymore. Then Weird Eye T-800 realizes that he's got to kill himself for some reason, even though we're going to see him in every other movie since then, or we're going to complain about it. So he goes into a big vat of metal while giving a big thumbs up, and you know what? He's dead now too. and I'll continue my streak of drawing a balloon lifting up 2 sausages. We survived Judgment Day. Or did we? We opened Terminator 3 after the supposed Judgment Day of August 29, 1997. It's now 2004. Sarah Connor is dying of leukemia, which is the meanest thing that you could do to a movie watcher. So John Connor, aka Nick Stahl, he's living off the grid so that the machines can't find him, but he still thinks Judgment Day could happen. So right off the bat, we're dealing with timeline inconsistencies of how old John Connor was when he first met the T-800. But hey, that's probably only because this Terminator is really not good. In fact, you probably only remember this movie for having a female Terminator in it that they called the Terminatrix, and what I can only imagine was a slew of congratulatory high fives. So Skynet sends the Terminatrix back from 2029 to also kill members of the Resistance, because if at first you don't succeed, try and kill literally everybody else. She's also there to support Skynet's creation. So she arrives on July 24th, 2004, and actually kills some members of the Resistance. This is a good one for the machines, guys. They're on the board, like no more goose eggs. So the Resistance, not to be outdone, sends back a T-850 from October 28th, 2033. The only difference in model numbers is so that Arnold can explain why he's aged, and then he can do that glasses bit, which is terrible. But this particular T-850 has killed John Connor in 2032, and it's been reprogrammed by his wife, Catherine Brewster, aka Claire Danes, to protect her younger self and her future husband, who smooched together in like some kid's basement back in like June 7th, 1995. So the only reason that's important is that it's right before John Connor disappeared with all of this and went off the grid. Anyway, stuff happens, but ultimately Lieutenant Colonel General Robert Brewster activates Skynet in response to a computer virus. And this happens on July 25th, 2004. And yes, he is her father. So like this whole like clusterfuck is starting to get real insular, guys. The T-850, Arnold Schwarzenegger with the glasses, kills the Terminator. That's 2D's dead, 3D's technically. And then he also dies in the process. I'll spell his dead properly. Okay, so 1 hour later at 6:18 p.m., Judgment Day happens. And Judgment Day, oh man, Judgment Day, it looks like that. Oh boy. The only people who are totally safe from Judgment Day, Catherine Brewster and her boyfriend, John Connor. So they're safe from Nuke City. And they're all like safe in a bunker, and they're probably like smooching and getting real close because you're gonna be in there for a while. So here we are at Terminator Salvation, which opens in 2003 with Marcus Wright on death row, and he's donating his organs. Why does that matter? We don't know until later, but he's killed with lethal injection, so he's dead. Dead, man. Somewhere in here, Kyle Reese is born. His birth is subject to some fuzzy timing across the movies, but it looks like it's anywhere from 2002 to 2007. So right around this big sloppy mess of a movie is when Kyle Reese is born. So we leap to the future, 2018. We're smack dab in the middle of the war. Hey, John Connor's here. That's cool, and he looks way better than the last movie. Ooh, shaved head. He's a military man now. And Marcus Wright is still alive? Maybe he's not dead. But wait, he's a cyborg now, an infiltration hybrid man machine sent to lure John to Skynet, where John can be made dead. Is he dead yet? No, because I'm not gonna write a question mark. Meanwhile, John is still listening to the tapes that his mom, Sarah Connor, made, and that's from all the way back here in 1984. So he knows, at this point, whether he knew this before, he knows that Kyle Reese, who was born somewhere in here, is his father. And so he's got to save him to send him back in time so that he can his mom, so that he can exist. That's a heavy load to bear, man. That's a heavy load. But anyway, May 2018, right in here, a lot of stuff happens. Last 30 minutes of Salvation, the following things happen. Skynet blows up all the other Resistance leaders. So I'm out of blowy up pictures, so I'm gonna draw a tree. So this tree represents all those dead Resistance leaders. John Connor, he blows up Skynet. Fuck you, Skynet. I'm gonna draw another tree. And then John gets jumped and mortally wounded by a T-800 with a bad computer-generated Arnold face. So, Marcus Wright, what does he do? Why is that important? Marcus Wright signed a donor release form, so he sacrifices his heart to put it into John Connor and save John Connor's life. All right, so that's all of the known Terminator movies. Now we're moving into Terminator Genisys, directed by Alan Taylor. Could be good. So what do we know? We know they've said it's not a reboot and it's not a sequel. So what can we figure out here from the trailer? Well, we know in the trailer we're gonna see this part. Somewhere in here, there's a big glowy machine. So we're gonna see somewhere in here. We also know that we're gonna see Sarah Connor as a little girl, which means that we're gonna see over here as well. I ripped her in half, but she's gonna be like a little tiny baby child, okay? Also, we're seeing scenes identical to the original Terminator, which means that we're gonna be fooling around in here doing our nonsense stuff. So it seems like they're either going to be weaving their story into events that we've already seen, Back to the Future 2 style, which could, be really interesting and super cool, but will be hard to do well, especially in a manner that's not already overly confused. But it could also be a totally different branch off the timeline. And that would mean they're starting a new one, which I would argue is technically a reboot, which conflicts with the IMDb synopsis of John being attacked from the past or the future. But here's what I think. Matt Smith is still a character without a name. He's not credited yet. Why are they doing that? If he's gonna play a character that John hasn't met before, that doesn't make any sense. So it's gotta be somebody that the fans already know. There's only 2 male characters in this movie that fans would give a shit about, and that is Kyle Reese or John Connor, which means I think that Matt Smith has to be playing one of them. What I think, Matt Smith is playing an alternate John Connor, which means they're gonna be splitting up a whole bunch of different fucking timelines and then collapsing them all into one to get rid of this whole mess and solve the time loop. And that way, they can keep moving the Terminator forward without having to deal with all of this shit. I don't know, what do you think? Who do you think Matt Smith is playing? Did I miss something here? This just confused me more. Tweet at me at Michael_Truly, and make sure to follow Cinefix for more of this stuff. Guys, I'm real tired. Oh boy. I hope Genisys is worth it.